Hello, dear colleagues. 1 minute before the start of our annual Back to School conference, we have this good tradition. So let's greet each other in the chat box. For us, it will be, first of all, the sign that you hear us and you see us. Everything is okay with the sound and the picture. And on the other hand, we do have this wonderful tradition to write where you are joining from, to create this feeling of community of teachers from all over the country. It's Zakarpattia, Mykolaiv, Черкаси, hello, 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 Lviv, Черкаси, Irpin, Звягель, Kharkiv, Kramatorsk, Vyshgorod, Lviv. I love this. Okay, 3 p.m. Kiev time. It's high time to start. I'm Ina Nistaitir, Macmillan Education, Ukraine methodologist and consultant. Before the actual start, very few important things I need to tell you. Just a second, please, 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 please. Yeah. The first important thing is that this conference is being recorded, and within 1 week, not today, but within 1 week, you will receive the recording. As well as within 1 week, but hopefully tomorrow, you will receive the certificate of attendance and participants. And I'm coming to the important thing. In case there is an alarm signal in the place where you are, please make sure you are in the safe place, because your safety is first and foremost, and you will anyway receive the recording and you won't miss anything. As for the certificate, sometimes it comes to the spam box. If you are using Gmail, you will receive the letter with the topic "Ви отримали сертифікат від Macmillan", and in the letter you will find the number of your certificate and the red button which you push and get your certificate. Then you copy and paste the number of the certificate and type your name and surname. Today we're having Teenagers Day, and today we have 2 sessions and me in between the 2 sessions. We are going to talk about teaching teenagers, and these are the course books by Macmillan Education, which are approved by the Minister of Education. 2 of the books are not that new, you know them, it's all clear and optimized, and there are 2 new courses, Gateway to the World, which is 1 year old, and brand new Get Involved with Ukraine. We do have everything the teacher needs to start working smoothly and comfortably with any of our courses. Both of the courses you see, Get Involved and Gateway to the World, they do have planning, which is to be found on our website in the catalog. Under the in the tab КТП, календарно-тематичне планування, and we have this curriculum. Навчальна програма розроблена на основі модельної. That is why if you chose and start working with either Gateway to the World or Get Involved and you need this curriculum, please don't hesitate to contact me and I will send you the curriculum you need. And that's all for now. With great pleasure, I'm giving the floor to Karolina. If you are not the first time with us, you probably remember and love her as much as I love her. She's wonderful. She's full of ideas. Karolina, I'm looking forward to your session. The audience is yours.
Okay, thank you. Now, I also have a question that I would like to respond in the chat box while I'm, uploading my presentation. Well, we are going to talk about motivation. So my question is, how motivated, on a scale 1 to 5, how motivated are you before the beginning of the school year? How motivated are you to start the new school year? 3, 4, 3, oh, 1, oh, no. 7, good. 3, 2, okay, 1 person, 5, 10 even, okay. 2.5 in the middle. That's interesting. I would say that generally we have that tendency to begin this, the new school year with a great level of enthusiasm, which I have to say kind of goes away a little bit. I'd say by mid-October, by the end of October, that's basically, but that's, I think that's actually, that's a general rule for all countries and all teachers. All right then, so we're going to talk about motivation today. And let me tell you one very important thing, that my views on motivation are not very standard. So what you will learn from me, what you will hear from me today, is that let's not motivate. I will tell you, let's do something else instead. For the record, I have to say that these are not these are not like officially, I'm not quoting anyone. These are my personal views. I'm going to show you what is it that we can do, or how we can substitute motivation or motivating students. What is it that we can do to still keep them here during the lesson, in our lesson, grounded and present. But I will also show you that, well, motivation is not really the right way to go. Why? Well, for a number of reasons. Can you see that girl kind of sitting this, sulking, being a bit grumpy? It's like, whatever you ask them, it's like, yeah, no, whatever. It's like, basically, I call this I ain't bothered attitude. And I ain't bothered attitude is not unique to your classrooms at all. And I'm pretty sure you are familiar with that. I ain't bothered attitude is just, I think that's a typical teenage attitude. And I am aware of the fact that most of it results from the developmental kind of characteristics. So this is where they are currently. In other words, the hormonal upheaval that teenagers are going through right this moment makes them grumpy and kind of aggressive and reluctant to cooperate. Also, their brains undergo major changes. One of them is the fact that the whole frontal lobe, kind of responsible for logical thinking, is kind of turned off, we could say, for several years, to be honest, which basically means that they have not, like, they can't logically think or logically process somebody's emotions or things that are going on around. Instead, they are usually up in arms. Amygdala takes over certain reactions. So basically, who they are and their I ain't bothered attitude is just the result of major changes in their hormones, in their brains. And basically, why I'm telling you to forgo that motivation, to keep it aside or not to focus on it so much, because to be honest, there's very little we can do. In other words, what I'm trying to say is motivation depends on so many external factors over which we exercise no or very little control, that my idea would be to focus on something different. And I think that, like I said, my main views for today, and me encouraging you not to think about that motivation too much, is not something that you will find in the EFL literature on motivation. There are, however, some elements, I have found several articles which kind of, in a way, prove that I'm right. For instance, you will find out, reading on motivation, you will find out that motivation, even within an individual, is so unstable, it ebbs and flows and it comes and goes and it comes and goes, that actually, again, there is very little things we can do to actually influence it. Also, as a whole group, looking at the whole, generation, the whole year of students, motivation declines as a rule as students move through school. Quoting Lamb from 2007, over the course of the school years, student behavior on the average declines or becomes less adaptive, with a large drop as students enter the junior high school or middle school, which is about that time. Middle school, junior high school, middle school in the US and in the UK will be like, these are, Polish and Ukrainian teenagers, right? So basically, this is a worldwide trend, which kind of proves that, we are kind of talking about certain patterns here. And the general trend is this overall fall in enthusiasm for formal language education. So even if the students begin, grade 1 with excitement, with motivation, being eager to learn, unfortunately, that enthusiasm and that eagerness kind of dwindles down and goes down, and it decreases until, and the moment it is spared with hormonal upheaval, with the changes in the students' brains, that's just how it is. So what I'm trying to show you here is that the only way to go is kind of acceptance. We need to face the fact that, this is the group that we are dealing with. In other words, what is the group that are dealing with? They are also like, yeah, whatever, yeah, no. These are usually the typical answers of teenagers. And I would say that trying to motivate that group of students, that age group, I would call it very Don Quixotic. So it's a bit like fighting with the mills. And it's, I wouldn't want to say that it's a lost cause altogether, but what we really need is not the motivation itself, but we need some expedient measures to keep them focused, alert, present, and something that will make them follow your instructions. This is what we are interested in. Do we want to change the whole groups, like, in a way we do, because, we are all educators, we all have our dreams, and we all want a lot of things. I think that one of the reasons we become teachers is, to have this opportunity to mold young brains. But if that's temporarily is out of the question, we actually need something that will work right now. I need some, instead of, talking about, making my students more motivated learners in general. What I'm truly interested in, to be honest, is to lead my students through a 45-minute lesson so that they are focused, they do the task, and they actually take something out of that lesson, okay? And that's basically what my webinar, what this seminar will be all about. Now, one thing that you need to know, and I think that it's something that you will definitely agree with, is that, again, dealing with the type of, with this particular age group, who they are and how they see how they perceive the world, well, they do not see long-term goals, or it is difficult for the students to pursue long-term goals. In other words, okay, you start working with the students in grade 1, and then they know that at the end of the secondary school, they will need to write the final exams, but that's a very long way to go, right? It will be very difficult to motivate students, right, with something so distant, okay? It's kind of, to use another metaphor, just to use that image, very few teenagers will actually jog for 6 months just to get, one size down in their clothes, okay? They want kind of instant effects. And to be honest, such instant effects and this here and now orientation is actually something that is kind of very good for us as well, okay? So how do we do that? My idea, well, in order to survive that expedient measure, the first step is in our heads, so to speak. And my idea, my proposal for you for today is to change motivation into focus. You know, again, motivation is a very abstract concept. It's something every individual's motivation is influenced by so many external factors over which we have absolutely no control. That again, my idea is to replace that motivation with a focus. What I'm truly interested in is to keep students focused on one particular task, on one task, maybe on another, or within a 45 minutes lesson. I want them to be motivated just enough to finish 3 activities in a row. That's my expedient measure. That's something, my tools that I'm using on a daily basis. Why is it so important? I'm pretty sure you are aware of this, Robert Covey. It's a very old concept. The book was called the Seven Habits of Highly Influential People, or some words to that effect. It's a pretty well-known book. It's been quite known for a while now. And what he divides all the things that surround you into 3 areas or 3 zones, as he calls. The zone of control, or the circle of control, the circle of influence, and then the circle of acceptance, right? Zone of influence, he calls it the zone of concern. So whatever is outside, it may concern you. You may care about it. It may be important for you or in one way or another, but you can neither control it nor influence it. Or yeah, that's the idea. And I think that focus, lesson focus, task focus is within our control, definitely is within our control and influence. Motivation is outside of it. Motivation is within the zone of concern. So we do care about it. It is important. We know how important the concept is, but there's very little, if anything, we can do about it. So, okay, let me start maybe with an anti-example, right? Because I'm not sure the situation is similar in Ukraine, in Poland, for many years now. For some reason, has been this expectation from English lessons that they have to be cool. So people are expecting the wow effect, and I think that a number of teachers have been misled to believe that by introducing that wow effect, we can actually motivate students to learn. The problem is that, well, 2 things really. First of all, language classroom is not the place for fun and entertainment. That's my views. Engagement, yes. Focus, yes. Fun and entertainment, hell no. Let me tell you why, and I'm going to digress at this point just a little bit. With everything that is going on in the world around today, I truly believe that the main, if not yet, I think that's the general, public education is going or should be going or will be going very soon, to teach the student or help them develop the skills that are lost in real life. Students no longer sit down for 30 minutes just to read. They no longer write something down. They don't no longer experience, self-study just, in silence for a while. So I think that this is our goal in education, to help them just that. If you want to wow your students or impress your students, that's not the way to go. Especially that the wow effect not necessarily brings the desired effects. Let me tell you a story from my lesson. I'm just controlling the time, sorry. So let me tell you the story from my lesson. It was quite a while ago. It's an example of how a planned wow effect may not necessarily work. I was teaching a group of 13-year-olds back then, and the topic in the course book was something about films. So what I did, I found out I still had at that time, what I still had I had at home a collection of DVDs, in the plastic. I'm pretty sure you still remember what these are. you know, the plastic covers, the plastic boxes. So I brought several DVDs to the class. I downloaded trailers. I prepared some vocabulary activity. That was a big thing to prepare. So this is one of those lessons that, you know, one of those 45-minute lessons, which takes another 45 to prepare, most probably. And that was a disaster, to be honest. They just, you know, the students looked at those DVDs completely uninterested. The idea was for them to choose something to watch with their parents at a party, like choose different films for different contexts. Nothing worked. I showed them the trailers. They were just nothing. And, you know, I got the look from the whole group. They were all just like, oh, again, she's like trying too hard. You know, she's just trying to impress with that kind of condescending look. Now, 3 days later, with the same group of students, the same course book, we were doing a text-based lesson, kind of quite spontaneously, kind of impromptu activity. I told my students, after we've done the comprehension tasks, I told my students to close their books and recall 7 words they remember from the text. Then I asked them to recall the context in which those 7 words appeared, and I asked them to create the sentences with those 7 words. And then their task was to open the books again and to find out if they were right, if their sentences are different from the book. Listen, I got 15, 17 minutes of absolute engagement and involvement. Very nice, you know, language work with absolutely no preparation. But it was just an activity, you know, no wow effect, just pure language. And I did exactly what I achieved exactly what I wanted to achieve. So the wow effect is definitely not the place to go. What we actually need is a kind of, if we look at the motivations, the carrot, the exam that is 4 years ahead is not going to be their carrot. We need a kind of carrot that is very close. So what we are talking about here is the motivation on the level of one single task. What is it that I need to do to make students complete task 1 and then 2 and then 3 and so on? And in the meantime, I will also tell you, and I'm going to show you a number of examples from Get Involved. You will see in a moment that a well-designed course book does a number of these things for you. But I will also show you a number of kind of outside the course book activities, which you can implement just, you know, with any book that you're using. So some of the motivational strategies that truly work here with this, you know, single task kind of motivation is, first of all, arousing students' curiosity. I will show you how that works in a moment. Tangible, that is palpable, you know, like very concrete task product. Okay, so something that students end the task with and the activity with. Intellectual challenge always works. One of the best kinds of activities, that my favorite ones. And I have to say that as an author, I absolutely love when the brief allows me to write activities like this. When the linguistic challenge kind of moves to the background and students have to think about something on their own or make lists, rank the items and so on. And the last one will be personalization. Students at this age, they want to be a part of the group. Always, you know, they are like flock of birds. They are just one of many, but still they always appreciate to be noticed. So what are they? Now, these are the strategies in order to make this seminar, okay, or this session kind of more organized. I kind of change these motivational strategies into 3 particular things that you can do in your classroom. There are 3 of them. You can keep students focused, motivated, grounded, present, you know, through lesson structure. If you structure your lesson, like the whole 45-minute lesson nicely, properly, or with a little bit of tricks, I will show what the tricks are in a moment. Through a good task design, and finally, by promoting learner autonomy. Let us start with the lesson structure in a moment. Okay, now, the beginning of the lesson is an extremely important moment. the beginning of the lesson. Why? Well, according to neurodidactics, you come to the class or you begin your online lesson and you basically have just a few minutes to convince the brains of your students, and the brains are very selfish, you know, that they're going to learn something interesting. You have just a few minutes to somehow grab their attention. And one thing is for sure, the moment you depart from the regular procedure of, you know, checking attendance, checking homework, then telling your students, now open your books on this and this page, the moment you depart from what students are, you know, expecting, or from what students are used to, this is the moment you can grab their attention. So what is it that you can do kind of unconventionally to start the lesson? One of my favorite techniques is to whet students' appetite, kind of whet their linguistic appetites. I know it's a bit far-fetched, but it's just writing something on the board or on the slide that is somehow connected with the lesson. So what I would do, for example, if I, let's say that, okay, my lesson is from Get Involved, and while maybe I'll check the attendance, I write this on the board, and I would ask my students to add either one line before or one line after that to make a dialogue. You know, to make it a bit more interesting, you can divide the class in half and ask one of the group to write the line before and the other one to write the line that follows. Okay, what do you achieve? Well, you first of all grab their attention. You start with a particular task. You start with something. Okay, do this. Right. It's a tangible. You have a tangible product outcome. It's not something like speak about this, speak about that. No, write one sentence before or write one sentence after that. It is a particular thing that they have to come up with. And this task grounds the activity, grounds this kind of make students grounded in the lesson. Why? Because if you see if you look at the dialogue that I've just shown you, it's Gateway A1 plus on page 55, so it's the first level. That's exactly what you will find there, somewhere in the middle. So there are two things that may happen here. First of all, you can, if you're about to start teaching lesson number 4, real world speaking, you can tell the students, okay, so during the lesson, just be attentive because this will appear at some point. Find out if you're right. Or if lesson 4 is something that you did in the last class, you can tell your student, okay, so let's open the books now and find out if you are right, if you're the same. Do you still remember that? That's exactly what we were talking about during the last lesson. And now, so as you can see, you kind of grab their attention and raise that curiosity right from the very beginning. Instead of you just waste, I know that checking the attendance and checking homework is important, but if I have just those very few minutes to make students interested, that's what I would use it for, because it's much more beneficial for later. Another example of whetting students' appetite is this. And that's an example of a lesson that I once observed. Apart from many other things that I do, I'm also a director of studies, which basically means that I follow teachers of English in their lessons with different groups, and I observe what they do in the classroom, mainly not so much for assessment, but for more like for further reflection and for kind of making the process more effective. So one of the teachers that I once observed gave students this as their subject. What do twins, peas, and cheese have in common? Have you got any idea? And now perhaps, I didn't want to show you that yet. Okay, so have you got any idea what that might be? Yeah, I will show you. This is what they have in common, okay? these are the idioms she was later teaching in her class, like peas in a pod, like cheese and chalk, and they were talking about identical and fraternal twins. You know that now the level of interest that students begin the lesson with? What do twins and pigs have, cheese and have in common? I have absolutely no idea. They try, they think about it, and then you tell them, listen, this is something that you will find out during this lesson. Just bear with me and follow the tasks. See? So this is a kind of trick that keeps students focused. We are not really talking about, making them motivated language learners in general, okay? We just keep them focused, like, listen, this is it. Bear with me, and you will see what the answer is. Okay. One of the my absolute favorites when it comes to grabbing students' attention at the beginning of the lesson is to keep the books closed for as long as possible. So let me give you an example. Like let's say that the typical lesson starts with checking the attendance, maybe checking homework, maybe some small talk, and then you tell your students, so now open the books on page 24. And it was like, there's usually the sound. If you teach in the classroom, there's usually the sound at the background, this kind of sounds of complaints. I don't even know what to call them. So now with the slight change in the focus, in the instruction, we can actually make students open the books like, oh, okay, with a different kind of attitude. And let me show you how I do that. So I will now play some sounds to you. Could you please try to figure out what these sounds are? If you have any ideas, just write this in the sounds of negotiating. I like this very much. So this is, unfortunately, some things in the classroom are non-negotiable. But that's Olena, I really like this. I think I need to remember this later. Anyway, what is it that you can hear now? Oops. Wait. Ball. What kind of ball? What do you see? Throwing? What is it? Oh, football, exactly. That's football. Basketball, no, he was clearly kicking it. Okay, so that's football. The second one. What was the person doing? One more time. Camera. Yes, taking photos. Someone's taking pictures. Very nice. And one more. Violin. Is it a professional player, professional violinist? Not really. It's a beginner. So we've got playing football, taking photographs, and practicing violin. Now, what if I tell you now, open your books. Okay. Wait, turn on all of them. So what if I tell you right now, guys, open your books on page 24 and find out which of these, they are all, free time activities, hobby, yes. Which of these hobbies, the names of which of these hobbies are there in the box on page 24. Can you see that? So the level of interest in which students actually open that book is completely different. Okay? And there are different actually questions you can ask. The names of those activities are here in exercise 3, right? So you can tell them, okay, which of them are there? I included one instrument, which is on purpose a different one. We've got here in the box, you will find practice the piano. So I would honestly ask my students now, which of these is not there in the box, okay? And so there is some kind of practice, but not the piano and so on. The football is there, taking photographs is there, taking pictures, okay? So basically now the level of interest, like this curiosity, students basically open their books with a much more curiosity than, in a typical beginning of the lesson sequence. Now, you can do exactly the same thing with photographs. again, we can start with, this is actually a unit on clothes. So we can start with describing the clothes, like a dress, a hat, a jacket, trousers, shoes, and so on, giving different colors. And then I would tell my students, now listen, these are examples of traditional costumes from a certain country. Obviously, there are too many countries. It's like a parade. It is a traditional costume. It's a traditional parade. Now, there are too many countries in the world for you to guess, but try looking at what you see, what the people look like, the colors, which continent it is from. Which continent? What would you say? Any answers? Is it Europe? What do you think? Per Latin America, Ala, thank you. South America, yes, obviously. See, and now I tell my students, really? So now open the book on page 47 and find out for yourself. So do you see the mechanism right now? That it's just a little bit of trick, a minor change in the lesson scenario makes a big difference here. Okay. Then there is one more thing you can do, and I will show it to you on the basis of the same task. You can actually take a passage, right, in L1, taken from an upcoming unit, or like before you start writing with the text, right? Take a passage, like one paragraph or a few sentences from this text, translate it into Ukrainian, and start a lesson with it. And I'll show you how it works. So here it is. You've got a passage in Ukrainian. I asked Ina, because this is obviously ChatGPT work. I asked Ina, she said that the translation is correct. Could you please just say it to yourself. You don't need to write it down. Translate this into English, please. It's very easy. It's like A1, A2 level, really. See, I can't even start because I don't know what it's, I don't really understand that. But now, students, now having done that in the classroom, the language is easy, students can manage. Once you give this to your students, you can display it on the slide or on the board, can ask students to actually write it. They can do it in pairs, which is going to be even better because there's some kind of, they can clash their ideas at some point. And then you tell your students, so now open the book and find out. See, open the book on page 47 and find out if you're right. This is actually a screenshot from Macmillan Education Everywhere, which is the digital version of Get Involved. I'm not sure if you use it, but I do recommend because it's very useful, to be honest. Okay, so and see again, you keep the books closed for as long as possible. So this is the beginning of the lesson. How about the exit? How do we wrap it up smart, right? Because look, let's face it, even if we manage to grab students' attention at the very beginning of the lesson, after 45 minutes, after 40 minutes, there's nothing left of it, right? But is there anything that we could do to squeeze out just a little something from our students at the end of the lesson? Sure, there is. You can ask the students to give you exit tickets. Exit ticket is like a minor strip of paper, a sentence, several words that students have to hand in order to be allowed to go home, leave the online class or leave the classroom or whatnot. They can be like slightly bigger, slightly longer, like here. Today I learned. I may need to practice with this. I have a question about. So, but this, they can also be, okay, just write down 4 words that you remember from today, or like take a look at the lesson, look into the course book and write down the words that are completely new for you for today. That were completely new for you. And now mind you that those exit tickets can actually make a nice incentive scheme. If we're dealing with a group of unmotivated teenagers, I'm pretty sure we can kind of motivate them to do something extra. For instance, it's like, mind you that a ticket in a real life context entitles you to do something. So how about 5 exit tickets given to the teacher in a row entitle you to skip one homework, or they entitle you to do something different. Or if the whole class gives you exit tickets for 5 lessons in a row, they can do something fun, or they can watch a movie or anything on lesson number 6, right? So I think we can change those exit tickets into a nice incentive scheme. There are, the ideas are different, as long as it all depends on what you can actually do. So this is the lesson structure. Now let us move on to the task design. Basically, what I'm going to show in this part of the seminar, of the session, is activities that work. And they work for various reasons. I would tend they've got tangible task product, or they involve personalization. They simply work, and they keep students focused and engaged, like I said, for a number of reasons. And most of the activities that I want to show you in this part are text-based activities. Why? I believe that this is the moment when students have the tendency to lose their interest more. They lose their interest, they're most likely to lose their interest in text-based activities. While you do grammar or vocabulary tasks, like, things are going on pretty fast. You write something, you check something, you match something, you read the answers. Now, sorry, but task-based activities, either reading or listening, they actually require some study time. They require to slow down, to focus for much longer, which, it's not so it's not so easy for a modern teenager, who, mind you, has got the attention span of either one reel or of a TikTok video. So now suddenly that same, teenager has to actually sit down, listen, and read for longer. So what is it that we can do to make them focused? Well, let me start again with a counter example and show you again a typical procedure, typical for text-based activities, which definitely makes students lose interest and focus. It's how the answers to comprehension questions are usually checked. So the teacher says, so what answer do you have in question 1? B. Mike, did you get the same answer? Yes, B. Well done. Who else got B? Most of the class, all right. How about question Tom? How about question 2? Tom, A. And you, Kate? I have C. Then Mike, A or C? It's C. Well done. See? This is the moment so somebody shouts out the answers, but it means absolutely nothing for our class, for the students' focus, let alone the students' motivation. The only way to make students actually, get into that and process this deeply is to make them do something with the information they have extracted from the text. For example, write 2 comprehension questions for your friend. It's like, okay, there's something different. Mind you that the novelty is always something new and unexpected will always make you pay more attention. Okay, and that's basically it's always the case. We can ask the students to write a quiz for their friends about the information from the text. Okay, or another example, after we read the text, let's say the reading comprehension activities are done, we can tell the students to read the text and underline the sentence with a similar meaning. This activity actually requires some preparation from the teacher, however, an absolutely minimum one, an absolutely basic one. Look, this is a text, page 75 from Get Involved level A2. It's a text about gorillas. And what I would do with my students is the following. After they read the text, in order to make sure that they don't just skim or scan or gloss over the text and do the activities very briefly, I would ask them to do this. Now, find a sentence in this text that is similar to this one. Both species of gorillas are endangered, but the number of animals is going up. All animals is going up. So now everybody is like, reading word for word, phrase after phrase, and the level of focus and engagement goes automatically up until the students find the sentence that actually matches the one that I wrote for them at the beginning of the lesson. Another idea, and this is something that's a feature of Get Involved actually, and these are the critical thinking boxes. At the end of each text-based reading lesson, you will find that critical thinking box. And this is when that intellectual challenge and personalization come into play. So look at number 1. Find examples in the article of actions to help animals in danger. So the student has to actually go back to the article and underline or note down the word, the particular phrases and the names of actions. The second phase for evaluation, but look at number 3. Imagine you're creating a campaign to help animals in danger. What campaign would you create? Which animals would you help? So, and this is an example of personalization. Making a text personal or making the text practice personal always makes the students more focused. Again, why? Because, okay, on the one hand, they don't like to stand out. They don't want to be, on the outside. They want to be part of the group. But deep inside, they want to be appreciated and they want to be heard. And with these activities, that's exactly what you do. For instance, listen to or read 3 book descriptions and choose something. Listen to or read dialogue and draw whatever they are talking about in that dialogue. Listen to or read the conversation and decide, I don't know, which of the presents they are discussing would you like to buy as a birthday gift, for instance. Listen to or read one of the speakers and note down, I don't know, the dates or the details of the exhibition they are describing, and so on and so forth, right? Make it better, note down what you like, make notes for yourself, draw something for yourself, choose what you like the most. Another example based on Gateway. So students read the text about a daily routine. And then I would ask them to find at least one thing Abby and Jack, these are the 2 students in the pictures, that find at least one thing that Abby and Jack do the same as you. And you've got what time they get up, when they go to school, with what subjects they have, how many lessons in the school. Find at least one thing, okay? And they have to, again, read it with focus, with engagement. And they, at the end of the day, they do talk about themselves. Now, personalization has got one more very important benefit, like a side effect. With personalization, or with a person making the text personal or asking personal questions about the information of the text, leaves you no room for cheating. In other words, you can, if personal questions or personalized questions are asked properly, the students really have to read the text and understand it to answer those questions well and correctly. Let me show you how it works. Look at these, I'm not sure, it's one of my favorite activities and I often show it. So maybe I did show it at some point with during one of the conferences with Ukraine, but today I'm going to show you with a different kind of with a different touch. So look, these questions sound like legitimate comprehension questions. What were the children doing? How were they playing? What were they playing? However, if we look at this, and that's a task taken from Pannier, How to Adapt Textbooks, which shows that actually they don't tell you anything about whether the student understands the text or not. Look at this one. The Changs was bludgeoning cruelly, Ned again, the brood again. So what were the Changs doing? And I'm sure you can answer these questions. What were the Changs doing? They were blunging, yeah? Now, where were they blunging? They were blunging Ned again, the brood again. And how were they blunging? They were blunging thoroughly. So see, you can figure out and use contextual and structural clues to answer questions with a non-existent language. If, however, I ask you, listen, describe an activity that you usually do thoroughly. See, then basically, if you don't know what thoroughly means, you're not going to answer this. I mean, you can always should, but then you can say, I always sleep thoroughly. Yeah. And what if thoroughly means, excitedly or politely, So the chances to answer this question from the personal point of view is rather low, if to be honest, close to zero. Okay, so personalization doesn't leave you anyway, leaves no room for cheating. That's what I'm trying to say. Now, there are other examples of personalization which you can use. The activities I'm going to show you 2 activities now, which are not text-based, but they are great examples of personalization and very good for teenagers, because you ask them about themselves and they absolutely love it, even if they are not going to admit it. They will never admit it, but they do. Even they will kind of try and keep it cool, like, yeah, whatever, you know. They do. They do appreciate it. Okay, so this is the task is called Associations by Bilbro. The procedure goes as follows. Students take out the name, a piece of paper, and they write the names of. This is presented on the example of personality adjectives. Write the name of someone who is talkative. So students write 1, Ben. 2, stubborn, Amanda. 3, reliable, Jeff. And then when the activity finishes, they have to retrieve these personality adjectives based on the names. So what is Jeff like? What is Amanda like? What is Ben like? And so on. And their task is to retrieve this based on the names, right, of the people that they know. To make it more kind of grounded in the course book, look at this one. We are talking about daily routines. Now, I want the students to think about 2 days, Friday and Saturday. And I'm going to ask them to write down the following times. Number 1, what time do you start school on Friday? And they write, let's say, 8 o'clock. Number 2, what time do you go to bed on Saturday? Midnight. What time do you get up on Saturday? 11 o'clock. And then based on those times, they have to match, kind of recall which activities or which daily routines were mentioned in each order, right? But again, it's not a text-based activity, but it's an example of a task which works very well with personalization. And this leads me to a point where I want to share my secret formula with you. Perhaps I've done many presentations for Ukraine, so maybe that's the point. My secret task engagement formula. And again, it's not something that I found in any EFL literature. It's not something that I read about. It's something that I've noticed as an author, as a teacher, as a director of studies. Basically, and mind you that all of the activities that I've just shown you in that task design part, they all have one thing in common. They take very little time to prepare. However, they induce a lot of engagement from the learners. And that's basically the formula that I've noticed. The more time the teacher spends preparing a task, the less time students will take to do it. And that works the other way around. The less time you take to prepare that activity, the more engaging it will be for your learners. Let me give you this one a particular example. You take a text and you want to write multiple choice questions, right? That's a lot of time. That's a difficult thing. A, B, C, D, 3 distractors, to make it proper, to make it truly comprehensive, comprehension checking activity, right? That takes a lot of time. How long does it take for students? A, B, C, D, done. They will just skim the text and they are no longer there. If, however, you take one sentence from the text, write it in Ukrainian. You can do this. Translate one sentence from the text into Ukrainian, into L1, and then tell students to look for this particular sentence in the text. They will take a lot of time to actually process and understand the text sentence by sentence. It's as if each activity had one load of effort, and that load of effort can either go on the teacher or on the student. So obviously it will be better if it goes kind of to the learner. Kind of, we don't do much to prepare it, but the students has to actually make effort to do and to complete this activity. I'm running out of time, kind of, so I'm going to speed up a little bit. Just a quick check for you. Of all the activities that I've just presented, which would you be willing to use at the beginning of the lesson? I'm really curious to know if you could write one. Anything? The last one, good. Okay. Okay. Translation from Ukraine, great. This is easy, right? Starting tips, thank you. Puzzled questions, nice. Sentence from the dialogue, yeah, this is very good. See, okay, so something stays. Good, good, good. Okay, I just need to I needed to have a quick check if you're following, if you're with me, if the ideas kind of resonate with you in one way or another. So starting tips, making personal, good. They are all invaluable. Thank you very much, Irina. Okay, translation. Thank you. Now, we are left with one final, element, and that is the learner autonomy. And let me go back to one more time to that kind of a little bit of theory on motivation. I strongly recommend this book, very reasonable attitude towards generally all psychological issues, but also the motivation in the classroom. And that's especially Sarah Mercer, kind of really nice researcher and the presenter. Anyway, in that book, I read something that caught my interest, really. No event is inherently motivating in itself. Learners are primarily motivated through their own interpretation of experience. So mind you that there is nothing is motivation in itself. It is the student who has to decide if something is worth taking effort, worth making that effort or not. All of the activities that I presented so far generally increase those chances for students to, interpret that particular activity as motivating and focus worth, right? But also in the same book, I read that teachers do not motivate learners by trying to control them or direct them toward particular outcomes. What they actually do is that how they actually can boost their motivation is by giving them autonomy, making them feel autonomous, heard, right? Autonomous learners are by definition motivated learners. So look at this one. There is a close connection between motivation and learner autonomy. Now, if you can, let me put it this way. It's not that motivation is necessary to become autonomous. It's an asset, it's easy, but it's not necessary. However, so not every motivated learner will be autonomous learner, but by definition, every autonomous learner will be motivated, okay? How do we achieve that learner autonomy? By listening, okay, feeling students empowered, feeling students heard, and letting them know that you are on their side. For instance, after Thornberry from 2018, giving students some say in the choice and management of the classroom activities is a step towards the direction of autonomy. For instance, this is a revision lesson, right? For the review lesson, vocabulary grammar review, I have some roundup. I would tell my students, listen, choose 3 activities you want to do today and during the lesson, and the rest will be your homework. And now it's for the student to, you know how empowered they feel? It's for them to decide, I can do something nice and easy and make it quick, and then, sit for the rest of the lesson. But I could also start with the most difficult ones because I've got the teacher to help me during the lesson. And then, I've got no assistance after school. Okay. So another example, what I would do, what I always do with my students really, is when they have, this is a revision before a test, what I do is I always tell my students how to study, help them, develop some learning strategies. Nobody ever teaches us nobody has ever taught us how to study. We kind of developed all of this on our own. If you want to show the students that you're on their side, show them how to be, and then, become autonomous, tell them how to study. First of all, tell the students, listen, if you start studying the day before the test, you're not going to make it, because it's not, you need a timely and repeated revision, at least 3 days before the test, before an exam. We could also, that's a very good moment at the beginning of the school year. Ask students how they learn a new language. Ways I learn in language, ways I communicate, ways I control my anxieties. This is a very important thing, yeah? Basically, if you really want to foster motivation as this extra concept, the only way to do it, and the way I see it, is to make them feel you're supportive. So make them feel that, yeah, your class is supportive, that you're supportive, that you are there to help them. Because at the end of the day, you are willing to do things for the people that you like. Let me give you an example. I'm sure that, each of you has a boss at work. That's the principal or the headmaster. Now, maybe you've had different headmasters throughout your career. Now, think about of two kinds of bosses. One boss that is always, you have to do this, very kind of, just demanding, very cold, absent, not really treating you as a human being, just as a teacher in that machine, a part of the huge educational machine. And the moment that principal asks you to do something, of course you will do it. You have to. We all value our jobs, but you won't do it, willingly, right? You will be reluctant to do it. Like, oh, geez, I have to do this again, yeah? If, however, you've got a principal who says, listen, we need to do this. How do we do that? Maybe I can help. What do you need? If you've got a principal who listens to your needs, you will be more cooperative in general. You will be motivated to do your own job. So be the second principal in your classroom, so to speak, okay? And one final thing that I would like to suggest is, that boosts learner autonomy, and that's, again, a very good thing to begin the new lesson, the new school year with. Set up a WhatsApp group for your class, for your class, right? You don't have to be involved. Obviously, again, there are different rules and regulations. You have to know your class. You have to know your school, right? So it's not, I know that it won't be possible in every single educational setting, but such a group is a great place to just drop in certain kind of messages to the teachers, showing them that you care, but also dropping little bits and pieces of very nice language. Look at this, and just a quick reminder, the deadline is tomorrow. Have you thought about something yet? Who's getting ready for the mock, or who's getting ready for the test? Who wants to? Something is drawing near, guys, and so on and so forth, right? That's almost the end. I just need my exit ticket, guys. So that's my exit ticket. If you still remember what exit tickets are, tell me. Now you replace, in other words, what is it that we can do to keep students focused, autonomous, and what are the pathways to take in the upcoming school year? Replace motivation with focus. Somebody, yes, Svetlana. Forgo fun and entertainment. This is just skip it, because it's, to be honest, if I hear, make your lessons fun and entertaining, it makes my blood boil. Grab students' attention, Olena, thank you. Expect what comes, something that you can touch, like feel tangible, very good. And make students try hard, as in try hard. What do they make? Effort, very good. And the last one, to make them autonomous, feel good and feel supported and appreciated. Listen to their, obviously, views or voice, very good. Okay, so that's it for today from me. Thank you very much. The references for this talk are included, so feel free to use them, and all the best in the new year, from me. Thank you.
Carolina, many thanks. I hope you saw that bunches of thanks and hearts, lots of hearts. We can see it on the screen. These hearts. It means that the ideas you shared, they're simple, practical, easy to use, starting from the next week, from Monday or Tuesday or whatever.
Good, I'm glad.
As usual, and I do appreciate when the teacher trainer shares very simple activities, very simple ideas with little or zero preparation and 100% effect. Thank you very much.
My favorite. These are my favorites, so
Thank you. Let me share my screen.
Yeah, I'll just stop sharing. Yes.
Okay, we have a bit of time with me, because all the examples from Alina's talk was from our brand new course book, which is called Get Involved, and the title of the course speaks for itself. It consists of 5 levels, and it means that the course covers from grade 5 to grade 9. The course is approved by the Ministry of Education. It has this схвалений до використання у закладах освіти України. It is intended to the classes which have 3.5 lessons per week, 3.5. Of course, it can be extended, but mostly it is for those who have 3.5 or 4 lessons per week. It is a perfect choice if you have a mixed level class, and actually most of us have a mixed level class. It is a perfect choice if you as a teacher lack lesson preparation time and you need something that you can teach from the page or off the screen. It is a perfect choice if you need ready-made materials in one place, that you save your time searching for them. And it is a very good choice if you feel and you know that your learners lack motivation and lack engagement, because the title of the course speaks for itself, Get Involved. Each level consists of 9 units plus unit starter. Each unit consists of the classical lessons, like 2 lessons of vocabulary, 2 lessons of grammar, reading, listening, speaking, writing. It has additional activities for practicing pronunciation, and each unit finishes with the project work, which can be seen as a kind of assessment lesson. Every unit starts with the question, what do you think? And during the unit, your learners gather, collect, and acquire vocabulary necessary to answer this question, grammar to answer this question, information to answer this question as fully as possible, and skills. Skills, I mean speaking skills, writing skills, thinking skills, collaborative skills, which will allow them to give the mostly full answer to this question. In this case, how important are hobbies for teenagers? It's interesting that Carolina showed the same unit as I prepared. We didn't negotiate this beforehand. And this final lesson, which is always a project, don't be afraid of the project work. It is a collaborative project done in class time. It's not as homework, and collaborative means that they work in groups to produce their project. And the feature of this course is that they have a video example, video model of a teenager of their age given this presentation, given this project. And it's not always a presentation. In different units, there are like make a podcast, create a video, create a plan, create a model, and so on and so forth. They have a printed or paper model. You see it on the right on the screen, and they have a very carefully staged step-by-step guidance how to deal with the project. They are equipped with useful phrases how to communicate while they are working at their project. The content of this course is very up-to-date and very much relevant to modern teenage interests. You can see some screenshots from different types of activities. It's not only about reading text, it's also about vocabulary activities, grammar activities, speaking tasks. And the form of the text is also modern, up-to-date, and visually the format reminds what teenagers listen and see in their real lives, like web pages, blog posts, podcasts, vlogs, street interviews, etc. The course, each unit of the course has 3 types of video. The first type of video is the vlog, where a teenager tells something using vocabulary learned during the lesson. The second type of the video is a speaking video, real world speaking video, where the learners see how English is actually used in the real world, because this kind of video is shot in the UK, in the streets of London, Oxford, and in the United States, in the streets of Los Angeles, which I think is really important, because in today's world, very few people speak British English. Most people speak American English. And I think it's fair to expose our learners to different types of English language. And the third type of video, as I've already said, it is a demonstration of a project done by a second. I'm terribly sorry. Video in my Zoom a bit slows down the picture. Also, this course has this philosophy of every ability, not mixed ability, but every ability, which means that one and the same activity can be done and is proposed to be done in 3 different ways. For those who are very fast, it is one way. For those who are rather slow, it is another way. And for the rest, it is a regular activity on the page of the book. And the materials for this every ability approach are in the Teachers Resource Center, which is activated via the code in the teacher's book. And you can see that it's not only about grammar, but I demonstrate grammar, basic, standard, and higher. It is also about vocabulary, about reading, about writing, about listening. So all the things involved in language learning is taken care of in this approach. And also teacher's book, you can see the screenshot from the teacher, one of the units of the teacher's book, and you can see that here you have ready activities for fast finishers. Ready activity if you want to reinforce what is being done in this case, activity 4. Challenging activities. For example, you did some activity and you feel that this activity lacks challenge for your learners. So you have the ready idea how to challenge them. Of course, extra activities where normal, I mean, it is natural for us to want extra, and extra. So these extra activities are here on the page the teacher's book. Sorry. And there is one more feature which I love, and this is the only course where I saw it. It's an alternative homework. Alternative homework means that we usually give homework assignment using our workbook. But there are some learners who find it boring or not challenging. So if you want to challenge your learners, you have these ideas for alternative homework for every single lesson. Now I'm stopping sharing my screen, and with great pleasure, I invite Grzegorz Spivak, our teacher trainer, and a person whom I always listen to with excitement, because how he sees activities in the course book, how he sees the approaches to teaching is something incredible. I will never ever think that this activity can be done the way he proposes. Grzegorz, I'm looking forward to your session as well, and I believe that most of our participants already know you.
Well, I don't know about that, but it's a great pleasure to be back working for you and with you guys. And it's a very special day for me today, I have to say, because it's my birthday. So what a way to celebrate a birthday, huh?
Okay, happy birthday. If we can allow the participants to turn on their microphones, you will hear this chorus of happy birthday to you, and you see these congratulations rising from the bottom of the screen.
Well, I feel like I've forced you guys, you know, with the wonderful wishes. Well, thanks very much. It's really pleasing. But you know, I wasn't fishing for that. It's just so that you know that it's such a nice coincidence, and I certainly hope that I will make this one worth your while as well. Let me first of all check that you know, the technicalities work. So I'll try to upload my slides. Do let me know, Ina, if everything looks appropriate. Let's see.
Not
Okay.
yet, not
Yeah.
yet. I
How
see
about
the
now?
grid.
Now?
Oh, now it's perfect.
Brilliant. All right. So, I mean, thanks for your lovely introduction one more time. And you know what? When you said you know, how I tend to sort of try and look behind the sort of the surface of some activities. Well, you know, this topic will certainly give me a good opportunity to do so, and I certainly hope that you will come away with some fresh ideas for just how we, as the title promises, I hope you still remember what the title was, but it's not just global skills, is it? It is two further things. First of all, how to make sense of this otherwise rather abstract sounding topic, and not just make sense anywhere, but and very specifically behind your teenage classroom doors. So, you know, my ambition is to try and sort of guide you a little by little into a more how shall I phrase this? A more sensible way of interpreting this in terms of why, as a language teacher, rather than a teacher of, you know, global skills that I am not, I can still take advantage of this new methodology, new themes, new topics, and certain new sorts of activities in ways which will help me achieve my basic goals as a language teacher. I hope that this makes sense to you, because that is precisely the take that I wish to sort of keep throughout this session. Now, I wonder if you still recall, or you know, even have any chance to read the invitation for this session, in which the opening passage as you can see, I'm just reminding you in case you saw it a while back, the first paragraph makes explicit reference to a number of rather current concepts, including, of course, the concept of global skills, as well as a few others. I am not showing you the whole of the abstract yet. I will revisit it in a moment, but for now, just to sort of whet your appetites for this particular topic, I would like to open with a little puzzle. And the puzzle is this. When I was originally working on this session, I did a Google search of one of these concepts. And the Google search threw back a rather huge number of hits. So my question to you, just out of curiosity, is which concept do you think did I query? What did I put into my Google search window in exchange for which I got this massive number? Lubov says soft skills. Any other suggestions, I wonder? Which concept? It could be learners of English, couldn't it? Interesting. Skills in general, yeah. Anything else? Critical thinking, that's a very good candidate. A very good candidate. Okay, I'm waiting for maybe a few more. 21st century skills, interesting. Okay, motivation. They're all good candidates, aren't they? And yet I have not yet seen the one that I actually put in, which is nice. You know, as I said, I mean, all of your suggestions so far would have been very good candidates. What I did, perhaps, you know, not very creatively, I just Googled in sustainable development. Simply because it's one of those buzzwords, or should I say buzz phrases, which have been around rather a lot. And I also used it in the abstract itself. You know, I was curious just how frequent it is. And 344 million hits in response to UN, United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. This just shows me how topical this area really is. And, not just UN Sustainable Development Goals, but, it's enough to start writing in the Google window sustainable, which I did, as you can see now. And if I do that, notice that it immediately prompts Sustainable Development Goals, immediately, SDGs. Yeah, which again shows that this is the most common collocation with the adjective sustainable these days. Sustainable what? Sustainable development. In other words, something obviously is at stake. Now, in case you are wondering now, what is this notion of sustainable development goals? Well, first of all, the way that United Nations have conceptualized it, as you can see now on the slide, it is a very complex set of rather universal problem areas, challenges to society, civilization at large, big issues, aren't they? Gender equality, number 5, quality of education, number 4, good health and well-being, number 3, number 10, reduced inequalities, number 14, life below water, so preservation of the ecosphere, underneath. 15, life on land. 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions. We could go on. It almost sounds like a wish list for a happy world, doesn't it? I mean, very ambitious goals. When I see that sort of list, I wonder what your reaction is to this. But, when I see that kind of list, I very often think, perhaps part of how topical it is just the current hype, and sometimes perhaps the word sustainable takes over certain issues which perhaps do not necessarily belong there initially. Just to illustrate this, I'm now showing you something that I picked up on a plane. I think it was last year. I was traveling on Wizz Air to one of my, teacher training destinations, and I just picked one of those in-flight magazines. And it just so happened that that particular issue of the magazine focused almost exclusively on sustainability. And as you can see, Wizz Air themselves kind of tried to take over that narrative. And in the very opening editorial to that magazine, they talked about how the airline itself is now fully sustainable, including a new job position that they have got, which is that of a sustainability manager. So not only, do they have it on their agenda, but they have employed a person exclusively to deal with sustainability. Lubov, you are hitting it right on the nail. Right on the nail. I will revisit this very shortly. Take a look at another one. Inside that magazine, they talk about sustainable travel and a person, a kind of sustainable travelers. Yeah, they do sound reminiscent, at least, of those 21st century skills or but let me show you a little further. So I started flipping through the pages, and lo and behold, they also talk about, look here, they talk about a menu in that Copenhagen restaurant which is supposed to be sustainable. And here on the right hand side about this particular butcher in London needing to make sustainable and ethical food choices. So it's very clear to me how much hype there is. And if you are thinking, okay, so this is in the world of travel, in the world of meat production or food production, it seems to be like all over the place. But what about education? Well, this lets me go back to my original abstract, in which, apart from UN Sustainable Development Goals, I also made reference to the OECD or PISA, so-called Global Competences Framework, which is to do with education. And lo and behold, if you look at an infographic produced by OECD and PISA, then amongst those global competences, take a look. There is, of course, as a reference to sustainable development as well. So, it is fairly clear that there is a massive overlap in this kind of phraseology between global skills, sustainable development skills, or sustainable or education for sustainable development, a mouthful, if you like. And it doesn't stop there. If you look at how those concepts are being appropriated in foreign language education, one great example of this is a fairly recent webinar that was given by a world authority on the topic of education for young learners, and also a Macmillan author, Carol Reed, who, as you can see, chose her topic as how to develop global skills with preschool children, you see. And this is the image at the bottom of the slide. And then one of the things that she said during that webinar was, as you can see, this is the big quote in the middle, that integrating global skills is an educational philosophy now. Okay, so, obviously there is a connection. There's a lot of use being made by these of these concepts and phrases in a lot of domains, including education and including language education. My little worry as a language practitioner, not just as a methodologist, wherever I see such huge, ambitious concepts, Sustainable Development Goals from the UN, those global competencies as described by PISA and OECD. My little worry, I wonder whether it is your little worry as well, maybe you can tell me in the chat, is but why me? Why should a language teacher, foreign language teacher, automatically be concerned with all of this lofty stuff? Am I even qualified to do this? Have I got the kind of skills, those global competencies myself before I can pass them on to my learners? Am I aware enough of the intricacies of those sustainable development goals in order to pass them on to my teenage learners? And in general, should it be even my responsibility? Should I not perhaps look, I don't know, maybe for a good modern course book whose author should take advantage of all of this new information and appropriate it for me? If you are thinking that, you are, I think, very well justified to be thinking that. Because, I mean, if you have been in education as long as I have, which is unlikely, but let's just do a little test. Is there anybody in the audience who still remembers the times where English language course books looked more or less like the one on the left-hand side? Anybody? This is one of the first course books that I learned from. Oh, somebody says yes. Okay. All right. Yeah, but this is last century, isn't it? This is when I was a learner of English. But isn't it interesting that at that time, for better or for worse, books for teaching and learning English had the title that made reference specifically and exclusively to learning English, like this one, We Learn English. Unit 1, level 1 and level 2, we are still learning English. And level 3, we have learned English, perhaps. Yeah, I'm joking, but things have changed since then, haven't they? If you look at a couple of examples of a current course book, there's been a sea change. And the sea change not just in the fact that they are beautifully colorful, nicely designed, they feature beautiful kids and all of that, but look at the title itself. There's no reference to English anymore. Did you notice? So it used to be We Learn English, and now we have got Global Stage, to take one example. Are you with me? Carolina's session that I hope at least some of you just listened to talked about a book, a course book series, which was called Get Involved. Another great example. Yeah? Get involved. This one is Global Stage. Let me show you another example, the one that I am going to be referring to a lot throughout this session. Gateway to the World. Again, notice not even gateway to English, gateway to the world. What does it tell me? Well, I think one thing that it does tell me is that the focus has shifted. Do you agree? I mean, of course, it is through English and with English and all the rest of it, but it's very clear from the very title itself that the focus has spread. English is a medium of instruction, but there are those other things, other considerations that we are invited at least to entertain. Now, rest assured, I think, one thing which is great about something like A Gateway to the World, for instance, is that its main author, David Spencer, has obviously read those publications about sustainable development, for instance. And to prove this, all I had to do was take a few instances from one level of the course, okay, and the headings of those pages. Take a look. Human-computer interaction, the first one, yeah? Sustainable food solutions, another example. Yet another lesson, time management. Is there a connection between these and the UN Sustainable Development Goals? Well, of course there is. Take a look. Yeah. I mean, it's very clear to me that even those three examples show that David has done his homework. And I think rightly so, because as a modern language teacher, I think you should expect a modern course series to give you this kind of guidance. That's what we said before. Why me? Well, it shouldn't be me in a sense of, me researching all of this and making sense of it at the level of every single lesson. This is the responsibility of a great author of a modern course series, and you should expect this. So, when you make your selection of which course books to use, I hope that one of the things that will be kind of going through the back of your head is to what extent it has done that kind of homework. To what extent does this make real reference to those areas, topic areas and topic issues. Having said all of this, I would still insist, and this is going to be my main tip for today, I would still insist that if you are serious about it, then you cannot possibly, even with a good book, you cannot possibly hope to address all of these skills and all of these topic areas. It's virtually impossible, over ambitious, and probably counterproductive. A real teacher, a great teacher, such as I hope yourselves, I think will be best advised, that's at least my position, to do this. That is, make a sensible unselection of these global skills. What do I mean by this? Rather than trying, at perhaps a rather superficial level to include everything, we perhaps are going to be best advised to only select a relatively small selection of skills, those that will help us achieve our core goals of language instruction. I think that's really clever. If you can marry the two, use the new content areas, use a selection of the skills and help my learners with these, deepen the foreign language instruction. So if you are thinking, that sounds initially promising, but how am I supposed to do this specifically? Well, the rest of today, I am going to stop giving you, this overall picture and focus very much on several practical activity types. Here is the first one. It all starts with a very powerful image, I hope. Do you agree? A very powerful image. What do you think? Which technology is this image illustrating? Can you think what technology that is? Yes, it's a form of artificial intelligence, but which specific technology? Artificial intelligence doing what or helping what? It's not ChatGPT in this case. I think Zoya was the first one, or was it Lubov, who said face recognition? Absolutely. One of those technologies. A very interesting, now I'm getting lots of good answers. Thank you very much. One of those technologies which are likely to impact very seriously on what happens to society in years to come. And imagine, for the sake of argument, that I wish, as a language teacher, and the prizes. Let's think of some, Lubov. Ina, we need a prize for Lubov for being super active. Yeah, I'm sure Ina can think of something. All right. So, imagine, for the sake of our argument, that we wish to use this topic, the topic of this technology and its impact, as a springboard for some kind of in-class discussion. Now, unless your teenagers are very different from the ones that I know, I think it's fair to say that no matter how attractive a topic, sometimes these discussions or brainstorming sessions or whatever go well, and sometimes they go less well. In fact, if you were here, last hour listening to Carolina, I think she gave a wonderful overview of those sort of realistic in-class scenarios. So what I suggest we might do in order to help this discussion go well is perhaps to apply a kind of pre-arranged scenario. And this scenario comes in several steps. The first one, as you can see, it's already on the slide, is to ask your learners, teenage learners, a question like the one that I just showed you, but instead of expecting them right away, to get engaged and take part in the discussion, you critically do what it says with the red font, which is you give them some individual, quiet thinking time. Okay, so here is a question. You take a moment individually without having to say anything in any language and just process the question in your head. This is stage one. Then you ask students to write their ideas randomly, say on the board or on a large piece of paper, or perhaps on a flip chart if you have got access to one. It could also be online, in a Google document. The forum is not important. What is important is this brainstorming together session, okay, where you don't evaluate, you don't judge, nor do other students. At the stage, you just put a lot of ideas, we hope. It could be small phrases, it could be whole sentences, as they please, okay? But what I want is, I want results of this phase one to be somehow made external and visible, okay? It could be in English. If they are capable of doing it fully in English, brilliant. But if they are not, those notes on the blackboard, let's say, could also be done in Ukrainian. Why? Because this is a great moment to help them with the translation into Ukrainian. You see that there is a gap and they are able to say a little bit but not the whole thing, this is a great moment to then become useful and say, this is how you say this or that in English. Then, and a very important moment, again, it's, as you can see, highlighted in red again, is once you have got that universe of ideas more or less developed, you get your students to study that together, okay? Read other people's ideas, okay? You do not need to have all of those ideas yourself as a student, because you may well borrow other people's great ideas before you get to say anything yourself. And only then comes stage 4, in which there is an in-class discussion reacting to maybe exchanging ideas, lifting them off the ones on the board. Okay? And if you are thinking now, where does this all come from? Well, I gave you a little snippet of a brilliant lesson, or in fact, a series of such brilliant lessons that I found on pages of Gateway to the World. And as you can see, it's all organized around that powerful image, and the scenario that I just presented to you is right there at some point in that double page spread. How does this look to you? Does this look like a good lesson? Give me some reactions, please. Just so that thank you for the thumbs up. Thank you. All right. And notice that the objective here is, as I told you before, is to, on the one hand, give learners some sort of structure, some sort of step-by-step framework, but the ultimate objective is to help them have something to say. In a lot of cases, the reason why some discussions or pair work activities do not necessarily go well is that learners simply haven't got enough or anything at all to say on the topic. So this kind of procedure helps them bring out those ideas of their own, or if needed, lift ideas from other people. So that was just example number one. Here is example number two. This time I'm going to start not with a powerful image, but with a short introductory text, like this one, to do with sustainable food solutions. So as you can see, it talks about ways of combating waste. We're not going to read the whole text. I just wanted you to see that it's relatively short. Yeah, it's great vocabulary support initially, as Oksana just said, a way to give them a little bit to hang on to start the lesson. But there is also this very interesting question at the end, which is that we need to think of different ideas that help us throw away less food. We need to think of different ideas. It is true, but you know what I am going to say next. What if your learners do not happen to immediately have any sensible ideas that they could bring into the table? Is there a way to help them get those ideas, organize them properly so that this lesson actually has the right kind of quality? Olena says, because they need support. Absolutely, yes. Lubov says, we can provide them with some ahead. Yes, we can, but we can also do something which this particular lesson suggests. And as you can see, it is already phrased in the form of a certain scenario. This scenario even has a name. It is called generate, sort, connect, elaborate. Okay? This is the heading of that scenario. And the intro is work in small groups, follow these instructions to solve the problem at the end of the text that we just looked at. Okay? How does this scenario proceed? The first stage is, again, generate ideas. In this, notice, it's similar to at least some of that earlier scenario that I already showed you. Why should that be? Because, of course, one scenario builds on another scenario and thus helps the learner step by step to get better at this complex task of getting, organizing, and expressing ideas. So generate. For instance, in this case, make a list of any ideas you can think of to waste less food. Number two, once you have got these ideas, sort them into any sensible groups. Decide the different categories. What are they? Put them in some sort of diagram. Huh? Some kind of visual organization. It could be something very basic or something slightly more advanced. I will show you examples of both in a moment. Number three, so this was generate, then sort, now connect. Why connect? Because some ideas from some of your subgroups may link in unexpected ways, interesting ways, to ideas from other categories. And this is the moment where you can start perhaps noticing those connections. So make those connections visually, okay? If you like, connect the dots, literally. And last but not least, once you see those new connections, sometimes unusual, unexpected, you can perhaps elaborate on your original ideas and expand them, because now you can take them in slightly novel directions, not the ones that you originally thought of. And will I surprise you if I say, one way to do this would be in the standard form of a spidergram, a mind map. And as you can see, those arrows are making some of those links for the learner to understand, if they have not done this before, to understand just how powerful it can be. But, in case you are thinking, well, I have done spidergrams and this is not something that my learners will consider novel, all I'm trying to show you is that you have got that original model as part of yet another such great lesson in Gateway to the World. And as you can see now, the scenario generate, sort, connect, elaborate is in the top right-hand corner. Okay, the sample spidergram is underneath. Okay, but if you are thinking my learners are ready for even more, how about sending them here? Which is one of my favorite websites in recent years. It's called Free Graphic Organizers. What is this? Well, as the name suggests, it's a collection of ready-made visual organizers that help categorize, sort, reorganize, regroup ideas. And there is a million different choices. Some of them will be great for those, compare and contrast activities. Some of them will be great for concluding activities, etc. I am giving you a complete link at the bottom of the page, so perhaps you will choose to take a photo now or a screenshot. It really is a great free website where you can expand on those elaboration ideas. And again, notice, why am I taking advantage of this as a language teacher? Because my objective is to use this as a bit of a training ground for getting my teenagers not only to talk about something current and relevant, referring to those sustainable development goals agenda, but also to organize those ideas better. So it's a double barrel approach. I am doing two things in one, or two things for the price of one, because it takes the same amount of time as it would have otherwise. If you need yet another example, as you can see, I am building up to a certain climax. But in order to build up to that climax, you need to see a certain number of examples. So here's another. I'm just now starting with one of those scenarios. Think of different situations where you need to make new friends, such as, for instance, starting a new school, moving to a new town. Okay, that kind of prompt for a little bit of a speaking turn. Well, it's all very well to think of such a situation, but if I am to actually narrate about it, then wouldn't it be nice to have some kind of support in order to organize this, such as, for instance, look, is there anything that you find exciting in such a situation? You move to a new school. Is there anything exciting about it? Think about that as a teenager and jot down one or two ideas, perhaps. But equally, there may be certain worrying things. What sorts of things? One or two, maybe. So one or two exciting things, but one or two worrisome things. Nice activity. I know, including the visual, Yeah, that, sort of different sides of the world. Yeah. Okay. So in the East, exciting. In the West, worrying. In the North, of course, it's up to you, but I mean, there's one great suggestion. So one of the things you could put up north is, okay, have you got any needs that that needs to be satisfied in that situation? Do you perhaps need to take some steps in order to feel reasonably comfortable in that situation? Again, think of one or two. Notice what I'm doing here. I am helping the learner think of at least one exciting thing, one worrisome aspect of that situation, one need that they may want to get satisfied, and one step, practical, positive step to take. How many sentences is this? Well, at least 4, isn't it? You see, this is how a beautiful speaking turn, a coherent turn, is being built step by step. Yeah, I do think, Oksana, it is a really good idea. But again, it's not a throwaway. You see what I mean? It's not a one-off. It's not just one great lesson. It's a framework that they can reapply to a number of similar thinking frames. Yeah? Thanks for saying that it's useful. I certainly hope it is. And again, can I remind you that every time I am thinking, okay, but what is it going to help me do as a language teacher? Okay, remember a few activities back, we talked about helping them have something to say at all, then helping them organize it a little. Now is doing something very specific, yeah, very tangible, to help them say something coherent, build a bigger argument. This is what's exciting. This is what's worrying. This is the need that I have. This is the steps I need to take. You see, it's already a scenario for something very powerful. Yeah, just because somebody else has done that homework. That, I think, is what you expect, and you know, as a modern teacher, from a truly wonderful, insightful course of English. And in case you're now thinking, I told you I was building up to a climax, you know, is David Spencer so smart himself? How has he thought of all of those routines and scenarios, and how has he organized them in such a premeditated sequence? Well, the answer is he is a very smart guy, but he's also done some excellent reading, excellent research, amongst others, into this. It's a very famous project developed at Harvard University a while back, which got to be known by the name visible thinking routines. Now, why visible? Because as I showed you, every single scenario has some kind of graphic illustration. Why? Because the proviso is it's probably going to be helpful for people more mnemonic to have some kind of visual with which they can keep this in their memory for longer. Thinking routines, I don't have to explain, I hope. You know, these are the sorts of scenarios or routines that help them think and organize their thinking more effectively. This is the background reading. If you got interested and you would like to find out more about it, there's a very good website that you can access. As you can see, it is powered by the Graduate School of Education at Harvard University, and it has got those visible thinking routines spelled out with extra resources, really valuable stuff, not only for language learning, but certainly a lot of joy for any great language teacher. There are also book publications on the topic, including this one, Making Thinking Visible. So if anybody got really intrigued and would really like to explore it further, take a look at this one as well. Now, if you're thinking, does this approach only work with those Harvard thinking routines? Well, the answer is no, it works with a number of other things that great teachers have developed. And in the remainder of today, I want to show you a few extensions, which I think are really, really great for a language teacher, and which have been developed and then tried and tested by real language teachers that I had the privilege of learning from. So again, let's imagine, for the sake of argument, that we have got a discussion topic like this one. AI is going to make most people jobless. Yeah, it's a good topic in itself, but remember, I am not here searching for good topics only. In fact, I am searching for ways to make any topic, good or bad, in a sense, fly better because of the pedagogy that I have got behind it. And this particular approach, I'm very happy to credit Marta Rosińska for. I'm sure a lot of you know Marta. She is an author of some great publications, including those for Ukraine. And this particular one, she showed me years ago, and I think it's still incredibly valid. It is yet another routine called OJE. Okay, what do those three things stand for? O is for an opinion. J is for a justification of that opinion. And E is for example. Are you with me? Three things, okay? So, can I remind you, imagine hypothetically, we have got a topic like AI is going to make most people jobless. And imagine now a standard teenage classroom, you throw that kind of topic at them, and what do you get under their opinion? I don't know. Or it depends. Don't you just love, or rather hate? It depends. Well, of course it depends. Yeah, but if they say it depends, they are willing to stop. And when they stop, I mean, I'm not happy as a language teacher. I need them to go beyond that. So notice this routine is forcing them to go beyond. It says to them, okay, so that's your opinion. It depends. But now you need at least one extra sentence of justification. Why it depends? Does it make sense to you? And once you have got your one sentence justification, give me one extra sentence in which you exemplify that justification. So how many sentences at minimum? 3. Good? Tell me if you like it. Give me an opinion, however teenage and useless it could be. But once you do, you're not off the hook yet, because you need second sentence of justification and a third sentence exemplifying. Now, I suggest to you, okay, let me ask real teachers a real question. If you present your teenagers with such a routine initially, will they like it or not? Initially. Average teenage class. Yeah, Igor says 50-50 at best. Yes, Galina says no. Well, some people are optimistic and they say yes, but my typical experience is that initially they are at best iffy about it. Why? Because you force them to put in extra effort. And an average teenager is not necessarily initially happy to put in. If they are, wonderful. Yeah, if they are, great. But what I'm saying to you is, if they are not, and I predict a lot of them may not be happy initially, you just tell them, bear with me. I'm going to force you to love this, because in time you will see how this helps you speak. Like those thinking routines before. Initially they may sound awkward and artificial even, but in time they kind of get under your skin and they help you push your thinking more effectively in any language, but crucially for us in English, as the case is. And my other suggestion, again, lifted of a great teacher, is that this kind of routine like OJE or some of those earlier examples that I showed you could become a poster, something that you simply, put onto a large sheet of paper and put on your classroom wall. So wherever you have got a speaking task, okay, and you start getting it depends, you just point them to that poster and you say, look, JE, okay, you did your O, what about J, what about E? You see what I mean? Okay, until it almost becomes second nature. Okay, so instead of getting one silly sentence, you are getting 3. Okay, now with any teenagers, or in fact with any group of learners, any such good scenario will have its shelf life, and after a while it will become a little boring. But fortunately, there are great teachers about. As you can see, I am now quoting from Carolina, who has got a variation on that topic. And notice, essentially, it's going to be the same thing, but it looks different. So you will pretend you have changed the routine, okay? So Carolina is the following. S for statement, then short answer, okay? And finally, extra information. So again, notice, not just one thing, but 3 instead. Make a statement, provide a short reaction and give some extra information. Okay, so again, imagine this. Okay, one person says something, another person comments, and the first one provides some extra information. It's the same spirit, slightly different organization, but the same purpose, which is to help organize and push more output from the student. Okay, yeah, it's a mini debate, Lubov, not a huge debate, but at least you give them some way, some anchor to start them off in the process. Yet another great idea from, as you can see, anonymous workshop participant who gave me this after an earlier workshop on a piece of paper and forgot to sign it. So I can't remember who that was, but I am very happy to quote the idea because I think it's brilliant, is this acronym FREE, which is yet another variation on that topic. How does this work? Well, F is for fact, then R for a reason you've quoted this fact, then example 1, example 2, and then you're free to go. Hence the acronym. Very teenage. Do you like it? So give me a fact, then a reason for giving me that fact. Sentence number 2, by the way. Yeah. Then sentence 3, one example. Sentence 2, yet another example. 4 sentences in total. You're free to go. Notice, by the way, it could work really nicely in that writing as well, because that sort of thing would be, yeah, it's kind of like an exit ticket or a framework for a paragraph. Do you agree? Better 4 sentences than none or 1. Yeah. Okay. But the overall purpose is obvious. Now, I said this already, but I will remind you. It's very important what I am about to say now, which is that any of those things will be relatively meaningless if you do them once and forget about them, okay? But they become a huge difference in the lives and the quality of speaking and writing if you turn them into a systematic program. And not just for 1 month or 1 semester, but throughout, if you're lucky, throughout their experience in a particular school segment, like for instance, secondary school, which is why I'm showing you that, Gateway to the World has got that feature spread across all its levels. So one example on the left, as you can see, comes from level A2 and another example from level B1, because these things build one upon another and they turn into a very coherent, sustained long-term program. I'm looking at the watch and I need to be drawing to an end, but I cannot let you off your hook until we look at one final routine, okay? This routine, as you can see, will work with a text that students have just read. But as you can see, the word text is in a different color font, gray in this case, to remind me to tell you that it does not have to be text, that is written text. It could be any listening that you've done with them, or any video clip that you've watched together, or a training session like now. Okay, we have just done about 50 minutes of intensive methodology. So if I were to ask you now to pick one sentence from what I said over the last 50 minutes, that for you talks about a key concept, what would it be? One sentence. Now, before you start writing, don't write yet, because I want to show you a few variations on that principle, okay? So Carolina called this an exit ticket. It is a form of exit ticket, isn't it? But I hope that you will like this as well. So it could be one sentence. It could be one phrase from the text, from the listening, from the video, from the session that interested or provoked you. What would it be? on a different occasion, you could ask them for one word, reflect back on the last piece of writing, listening, video, whatever. Yeah. Is there one word that you are taking away from it? What would it be? Huh? Could be a sentence, it could be a phrase, it could be a word. And this is the final and really important moment, which is once you have got them, compare them. Well, let's do this. My choice today is either word or phrase, okay? So please pick one phrase or... Okay, I can see sustainable development. I can see organizing ideas. Okay, any more? Think visible. Okay, OJE. Uh-huh. You know what I'm driving towards, don't you? Uh-huh. Free, right. Which is that, of course, it's a beautiful lesson in tolerance, isn't it? It is a beautiful lesson in in sort of diversification of thinking. If you have got a group of people and you ask them for that kind of summary, then it is almost guaranteed that people will choose different things. Okay? Which is yet another global skill in itself. And notice what we have done today. Look, it's been a lot of material. These are all of the slides that you have seen over the last 50 minutes. A lot of material. Yeah. So potentially any of these things could be of value to you. This is a wonderful moment, I think, for any educator, giving that kind of space to the learner, so that the learner has the right to process it, make it sensible, think it through, and take something away. And if you have also got a moment for them to compare what those special words or phrases or sentences are, then I think you're also giving them a most valuable lesson in diversity and in intolerance. So notice again, I kept on telling you how I am looking for techniques which will combine the new topics, the new ideas, the new pedagogy on the one hand, with the core aspects of what I need to do as a language teacher. So I'm going to finish with that beautiful modification of the original "I think, therefore I am" quote. And the modification comes from Dave Spencer, the author of Gateway to the World, who changes this into "I think, therefore I am learning." So giving the learner that kind of extra dimension, one subset of global skills, which is called this critical thinking, called this critical analysis, call this thinking routines, is yet another fantastic addition to our teaching portfolio that will help them get something else out of my classes beyond the wonderful English instruction. That's all I had for you this afternoon. I hope it made sense. Let's stay in touch. I love hearing from colleagues and making new friends. So here is my email. If anybody wants the slides, for instance, just drop me an email. But also, if you'd like to stay connected, then maybe you'll friend me on Facebook or LinkedIn. I'll be very happy to connect up and continue that conversation. Thank you very much, and over to Ina.
Grzegorz, thanks a lot. You know that I'm a big fan of Dave Spencer as a personality, Dave Spencer as the author, and I'm a big fan and a user of the very first edition of Gateway. And you showed today how rich the course book Gateway to the World is. And you tried, and I think you succeeded in this, try to put in the idea that we're not simply teaching English. We have this unique opportunity to teach everything due to the subject we teach. And Gateway to the World is the book which gives this chance to us with little effort, sometimes with zero effort, to provide our learners to open this way to the whole world of sustainable development, of thinking, of independent
Absolutely.
thinking, critical thinking, of the things which are important today, tomorrow, and will be important, I think, always. To finish our conference, I would like to launch the poll. Grzegorz showed you just a part, I would say a teaser of the course Gateway to the World.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and we have the opportunity to get you acquainted with this course in more detail, in person, physically, if you're based in Kyiv or around Kyiv, or via the Zoom if you are not based where we can get to you. So please take part in this poll, which is on your screens, and we are here to help you, to get you acquainted with the books. Again, if you are somewhere in Kyiv or around, we can bring the books to you and give you this chance to look through it and find something which is useful for you and for your learners. And Gateway to the World is definitely the course which has a lot of valuable things for today's teenagers. While you are taking the poll, I would like to remind you that you will receive the video recording within a week, and you will receive the certificate within a week on your emails. And again, many thanks to Grzegorz for his brilliant and very deep and profound presentation on global skills and sustainable development goals. I saw them in a bit different way I saw them before your presentation.
Well, that's the purpose of these sessions, isn't it? Right? To give us a chance to rethink and maybe, look at sometimes familiar things with slightly different eyes, and that's something that I was hoping to offer this afternoon. Well, thank you very much for all the wonderful comments, for the re-invitation. I certainly hope to be back at some point. So enjoy the rest of the afternoon, and to stay strong.
And enjoy the rest of your birthday. Happy birthday to you.
I will indeed.
Okay, thank you
I'll have
very
a glass
much,
of
dear
something.
colleagues. And happy new school year to all of us. Happy, successful, peaceful, and smooth start. Thanks a lot, and see you.